Hey guys, I wanted to make another video on how to simplify fractions. I already have one on my YouTube channel, um, but I understand it might be a little confusing. And if that's the case, I want to try to make this video a little easier to follow along with. So, simplifying fractions is a lot easier than you think. But you need to know factors and you need to know basic division facts. So, for instance, if I had 8/14 and I needed to simplify it, all I would need to do is write out factor pairs for the numerator, which is 8, and write out factor pairs for the denominator, which is 14. So starting with the numerator 8, I know 1 and 8 is a factor pair, and I know 2 and 4 is also a factor pair. And that's it. No other whole numbers multiplied by no other whole numbers is going to get you 8. So let's take a look at 14. So once again, I know 1 and 14 works. What else is going to give me 14? 2 and 4. Or not 2 and 4, 2 and 7. My apologies. 2 and 7. So now what I need to do is I need to take a look at all the factors for 8. So I have 1, 4, 2, and 8. All the factors for 14, I have 1, 2, 7, and 14. And I need to figure out which factor do they both have in common, but it's the biggest one they have in common if they have more than one in common. So it turns out that 8 and 14 both have the factors 1 and 2 in common. But between those, 2 is the biggest. So 2 is what we call the greatest common factor, or GCF for short. And what we're going to do with that greatest common factor is we're going to divide our numerator 8 by it, and we're going to divide our denominator 14 by it. Now notice, if I'm dividing the top and the bottom by 2, what I'm really doing is I'm really dividing by 2 over 2, which is 1 whole. And so when you simplify a fraction, you're really not changing its value. In fact, you're simply changing its appearance. Okay? It'd be like if I put on a clown wig right now. I'm still Mr. Smith, but I look different. So if I divide my 8 divided by 2, I'm going to get a 4. And if I divide my 14 divided by 2, I get a 7. And so the simplified version of 18, or I'm sorry, 8/14 is 4/7. Let's take a look at another example. So let's say that you have 15/6. This is an improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator, and you're being asked to simplify this. Well, I'd say the first step that you want to do is you first want to write out factor pairs for your numerator and your denominator. So let's go ahead and do that. We have 15 and we have 6. So the factor pairs for 15, 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. And that's it. Looking at 6, we know that 1 times 6 gives us 6, and also 2 times 3. Now, between all these factors, they had the 15 and the 6 have a 1 in common. They also have a 3 in common. But the 3 is bigger than the 1, so the 3 is the greatest common factor, or the GCF. And so we are going to divide the 15 in the numerator by the greatest common factor 3. And we're going to divide the 6 in the denominator by the greatest common factor 3. And we're going to end up with 5/2, which is a simplified version of 15/6. But it turns out we can actually go even further with our simplifying because 5/2 is still improper. So if we want to change the improper fraction to a mixed number, we simply remember that all fractions are division. And we will divide the 5 by 2. 2 goes into 5 twice. giving us 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. And we write our remainder as the numerator in our mixed number and the divisor as our denominator. And so 2 and 1/2 would be the most simplified version of 15/6. So when you're working online and it's asking for simplified answers, you may have to do several steps. You may have to find the greatest common factor, and then you may still have to divide the numerator by the denominator. So I hope this video helps. As always, please let me know if you have questions, and good luck in your math work.